For the first time in March, we get to say we're live on a Saturday night with the college basketball coast to coast recap program. I am the somewhat capable host, TJ Rives. My wingman is Jason Powers. We are both in the Tampa St. Pete Clearwater area, and we are ready to go. T-minus 8 days away from Selection Sunday. Power conferences wrapping up regular season play. Jason, automatic bids going out. We see the dominance of Duke and Florida continuing, along with Michigan and Arizona, obviously. We see Danny Hurley behaving badly in Milwaukee for the UConn program. We've got a lot to go over. How are you on this Saturday? So much to get to, so much to cover, and it's March, my friend.
It is. It's the rain here in Tampa is going away, but March, the anticipation of next Sunday at 6 o'clock CBS is almost here.
Yeah, there is no doubt. Thank you for finding us on all the platforms live tonight on Twitter, YouTube, Facebook, etc. as we stream the show. If you're hearing us later in podcast form, we were live on Saturday night the 7th here doing this recap. Also streaming on TuneIn, the same thing on the TuneIn channel, College Basketball Coast to Coast. This was our live show on Saturday. We're going to have a big week on the TuneIn channel. First of a couple of mentions, you and I are headed to Indianapolis, Jason, to call the Horizon League title game. This is Wright State, along with the likes of Detroit and Northern Kentucky and Oakland and Robert Morris, the defending tournament champs.
Gottlieb and Green Bay.
Gottlieb and Green Bay, right, are involved on Sunday in the tournament. Two teams will emerge to play each other Tuesday night. We'll call the game live on College Basketball Coast to Coast TuneIn channel, 7 Eastern time. That channel is free to hear. Search it out, College Basketball Coast to Coast live on TuneIn and their service. We look forward to being there. And 1 week from tonight at about this time, we will know the Mountain West Conference tournament champion. As will it be Utah State, New Mexico, San Diego State, or somebody else comes out of Las Vegas as the tournament champs? Does that league get more than one bid or not? How crazy a season it's been. We'll crown a champ in Vegas. You and I out there for the second time in 3 years to call that game live on TuneIn on the College Basketball Coast to Coast channel at 6 Eastern, 3 Pacific, right before Selection Sunday. And a reminder, we'll be live Selection Sunday night with a recap of the brackets and some instant analysis and more on the social platforms, on the TuneIn streaming channel. You'll hear it on podcast, etc., all for next Sunday night. Can't believe we're that close to it. We can't quite put our hands on it, but we can see it from where we are that we'll get a field of 68 next Sunday night.
No doubt about it. Looking forward to it. We still have several resumes to evaluate. You got a huge week for those 4 teams you mentioned at the bottom of that the bubble list. You know, you mentioned the Mountain West get New Mexico in. Does Auburn, again, who's getting pounded tonight, do they run next week? Indiana? Does a team like Virginia Tech, do they win a couple games next week at the ACC? So a lot still to be determined. Again, I think the theme of today was, I think we finally figured out who our 4th number 1 seed is based on what happened at UConn and then what happened in Lexington with Florida.
Let's go right there. Florida sweeps Kentucky, beating them at Rupp. They scored the first 11 points of the game to lead 11-0. Kentucky got back in the game, but Florida went on another 10-0 run in the second half to get up by, at that point, about 14 or 16. They led at another point by 20 in the second half. Kentucky kind of made it a game. Very interesting for those that were short-term invested in, let's say, Kentucky plus the 6.5. It ends up that Florida did cover the number at the very end. And as you said, it segues into they finished the regular season, obviously, as the top team. And I think the consensus is they're now a number 1 seed at this point with the UConn loss at awful Marquette earlier today. Yes?
Second bad loss for Connecticut in about the last 2.5 weeks. Remember, they lost to Creighton at home a couple weeks back. We know they beat St. John's following that, but man, 2 bad losses. And I think I made the point to you today, could the committee in good conscience make UConn a number 1 seed, even though they didn't even win the regular season Big East title, to lose that out to St. John's Day? I didn't think so. And again, Florida comfortably won the SEC by a couple of games, and they have just been soaring up for the last 6 weeks.
No doubt.
That they played on.
If you have not seen it, we say to the audience, Danny Hurley thrown out of the UConn game in Milwaukee in the final second of the game after a no foul call with his team down by 2. It ended up being a double technical, so Marquette made all the free throws and won the game by 6. Hurley appeared to make contact with referee John Gaffney. We're going to talk more in a few minutes with our Big East insider, Adam Zagoria of NJ.com and the Zags blog. You've got some strong feelings about this. We'll go over it with Adam. Hurley is denying that he made contact with the official.
Please.
All right, the Big East has
Video,
levied
like coaches say in football, the film don't lie.
Yeah, the eye in the sky doesn't lie. We'll talk more with Adam about it. The Big East has already ruled it's a financial penalty. More on this coming up as Hurley was thrown out of the game. Real quick, before we get to Adam as well, Duke has pounded North Carolina tonight, a game that was fairly close in revenge until Duke scored 16 straight points at one point and a 24-2 run overall broke it open against North Carolina playing without Caleb Wilson. So they got their revenge. They've wrapped up the regular season already in the ACC and the 1 seed. Now they get ready for the ACC tournament in Charlotte. A thought on Duke before we get to our conversation earlier tonight with Adam?
I think you saw the struggles that Carolina's going to have, I think, against good teams to score, because the Duke's defense was really, really good in the second half. No Caleb Wilson. We got confirmation he's done for the year, won't be back. So there was talk that he could come back in the ACC tournament, maybe the NCAA tournament. He ain't coming back, but give Duke the credit. Remember, Duke had a little injury scare. Foster, their point guard, left the game with a foot injury, didn't return. We don't know the status of him.
We have an update a little while ago. John Shire told the assembled media in Cameron at Durham that he believes Foster's foot injury will keep him out of the ACC tournament entirely. Again, how much does that mean really for Duke? They're already a number 1 seed, whether they win the tournament or not. So he indicated Foster may not play at all this coming week. And also Gongba, the center, may not play in the tournament at all this week. Stay tuned on those 2 injuries for Duke.
So if Shire, and we saw the play, wasn't an ankle roll, it looked like potentially a sprained foot, maybe a fractured foot. I mean, they're not going to tell us
you hope
that.
not, right? You hope not.
But if he's already declared him out for the ACC tournament, that is not good news for them, because he wasn't a huge scorer, but he's kind of their initiator on offense, gets the offense moving. They then had to play Boozer's brother, not Cameron, but the brother, as a Caden Boozer.
Caden Boozer, correct.
He had to play more point guard. He's not a natural point guard. So, again, may not affect Duke in the first round of the NCAA tournament, but if this is a long-term injury, that second game when you're playing an 8-9 team could be a problem. Again, you get to the Sweet 16. Again, to me, not an ankle roll. It's either a sprained foot, a ligament problem, something that's not probably a 3 or 4 or 5 day injury that could be significant.
We are not orthopedists. We just play it on college basketball coast to coast tonight. Who knows? Injuries have been a big concern down the stretch of the season, as you mentioned, with Caleb Wilson being out. And North Carolina had won 5 of the 6 games without him. That showed the committee and everybody else something, but they ran into Duke tonight without him, and they don't have him. He's obviously got a cast on the thumb. They don't have him for the rest of the postseason. His career at North Carolina is done. We've seen other injuries, the Michigan injury to Kason, the other point guard, along with Elliot Cadeau. He's out with an ACL injury. JT Toppin of Texas Tech, their outstanding scorer, out with an ACL injury. These guys are not coming back. So staying healthy is another critical part of this at the end of the year, Jason, one more time.
And Bong was a key factor for them, too, on the interior to give Boozer a little bit of relief on the glass. He's kind of a shot blocking kind of guy. So, again, 2 role players for Duke. If they're not back, that's not going to make Duke as invincible as maybe they would be if they – and again, they're not invincible, but they would not be as strong a number 1 seed as if they had them. And, again, interesting to see what the length of these injuries are for these 2 guys, for Duke especially.
So it is college basketball coast to coast, and a little earlier in the evening, we caught up with insider Adam Zagoria of NJ.com. He's in the Northeast of the New York, New Jersey area. He was at the St. John's crowning win over Seton Hall Friday night in Newark, where St. John's, Jason, hangs a banner for the second straight year as the Big East regular season champs. They'll be the number 1 seed in the Big East tournament at Madison Square Garden this time next week and next weekend. So Adam joined us a little earlier in the evening to talk about that, about the Danny Hurley ejection, about Duke, and a little more. Why don't we go to that conversation that you and I had with him on the Big East subjects, Duke, and more earlier tonight. So, Adam, obviously a lot to go over, in particular with the Big East. Danny Hurley, once again, as they say in the preschool, not playing well with others when they send the note at home to mom and dad. The end of this game, a meltdown. Did he bump John Gaffney, the referee, or not? There's some controversy about that. So, first of all, welcome. And as much as anything, the loss, but then the actions of Hurley at the end of the loss and the ejection. What are your thoughts as we bring you in?
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys. Yeah, I mean, look, the big picture is that UConn went into the weekend. I was at the St. John's Seton Hall game last night. There was a lot of speculation who's going to be the 1 seed, who's going to be the 2 seed in the Big East tournament. There was a chance UConn and St. John's would be tied at 18-2. St. John's takes care of business, beats Seton Hall. UConn surprisingly loses at Marquette, so they're 17-3, so they don't win a share of the Big East regular season. They'll be the 2 seed, and then Danny kind of went ballistic there at the end. He thought Silas Demery was fouled. There was a no call. He appeared to bump John Gaffney. He said in the post game that he wasn't sure that he did. He didn't think he did bump John Gaffney, and he was just yelling at him from behind his head. And then the Big East just came out and fined him $25,000, but no suspension.
Interesting. I know, Jason, you had a question on that. Right? Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, again, with his history, and he's not a choir boy, and he, hell of a coach, but he ain't a choir boy on the sidelines. At what point is the Big East? I mean, again, don't you have to suspend him? I mean, it was clear to me he walked up into the official. There was no. It looked like to me he walked up into him and bumped him. Was it a brutal bump? No, but he clearly, it looked like initiated contact. At what point is the Big East going to say, you know what, sit down for a game? It's a quarterfinal game, Big East. It's not going to affect a whole lot. But don't you have to make a statement to other coaches in that league and around the country that, hey, that's enough?
Yeah, well, I mean, it's interesting timing, right? Because their next game is in the Big East tournament on Thursday, and they're not going to sit him for that. The quote here from Val Ackerman, the commissioner, is, "We hold our coaches to high standards of sportsmanlike conduct during game competition, and inappropriate interactions with our officials will not be tolerated." That said, I think Danny can afford $25,000, but he's not suspended.
That's a quarter, man. That's a quarter out of his pocket to me and you.
It's not the same.
It's interesting. Right. If this had happened, during the regular season, would they have done it differently? But no suspension.
All right. So again, how concerning is this? Is it a blip that they lost the game to Marquette? They did lose a game to Creighton at home late in the year. What do you think here for UConn headed to the Garden and the tournament?
Yeah, I mean, again, I was at the St. John's Seton Hall game. I think St. John's is clearly the best team, in the Big East right now. Although they did get blown out by UConn a week ago. UConn has looked somewhat human here. They were 22-1. Now they're 27-4. So they're 5-3 in their last 8. They lost to Creighton. They lost at the Garden of St. John's, and they lost to Marquette. Everybody's expecting that we're going to see round 3 on Saturday night here in New York. St. John's, UConn. It's going to be, a big time environment. Tickets will be expensive. Danny versus Rick. And obviously, St. John's will be motivated because they got their butts kicked in that last game.
What I do think, Adam, is I think that loss and them finishing the regular season in second place, even if they were to win the Big East, is going to cost them a number 1 seed, because I think it's going to be hard to justify Florida not being a 1, win the SEC by multiple games, and UConn finishing second in the Big East.
Yeah, it's so interesting because I actually spoke to Todd Golden, the Florida coach, 2 days ago, and I said, how much attention are you paying to bracketology and the seating. And he said, "Oh, I look at it every day, brother, and I'm checking it out." And, lo and behold, he said it, would depend on the Kentucky game. And, lo and behold, they go in there and, whipped up on Kentucky. It got a little tight at the end, but, Florida looks really good and Connecticut lost. So, yeah, your one seeds now are clearly, Duke, Michigan, Arizona, and Florida.
Hey, back to St. John's because you saw them firsthand, and you know the Big East, and you know that program so well. Remember, a year ago they won the Big East tournament, but then they got in the big dance and had problems shooting a horrific shooting night in round two. How much of a concern that this could be an instant replay of that early in the NCAA tournament, regardless of what goes on at the Garden? What do you say to that, Adam?
Yeah, I mean, look, first of all, it's what Rick Pitino's done at St. John's. We've talked about it before, guys. It's incredible. He's made them nationally relevant. I think this was his 14th regular season title in his coaching career in different leagues. St. John's has won back-to-back Big East regular seasons for the first time since 85, 86. But I don't, last year they got beat by Arkansas and John Calipari, and I'm not sure they can match up with some of those really fast, long, quick twitch SEC teams. They've had trouble against SEC teams this year. There's probably going to be 10 or 11 SEC teams in the tournament this year. So, it's all about matchups.
We shall see. Couple moments left. You broke the story. I prop you all the time here on College Basketball Coast to Coast, NJ.com and the Zags blog. You had it out there first that Providence had told Kim English, thanks for the memories. We're going to move on. What about that opening there at Providence? And it might be attractive because they have some NIL. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, we're at that time of year, fellas, when we're getting to the coaching carousel. I reported this week that Providence had informed Kim English about a week ago that he would not be coming back. I think they kind of took a little bit of a risk on him. He was a little bit young, inexperienced guy from George Mason. I think they saw him as kind of a future Ed Cooley part two. He did have a 20-win season the first year with Ed's players, but he's struggled the last couple of years. They had a kind of an ugly incident with the brawl in the St. John's game when they clotheslined Bryce Hopkins. So I think you'll see them go in the opposite direction now and look for a really experienced guy. Josh Schertz from St. Louis is going to be one of the hottest names on the carousel, although St. Louis is going to try to pony up the money and keep him. A guy named Joe Gallo, he's the coach at Merrimack, is going to be a hot name on the carousel. And then also today you had Mark Schmidt at St. Bonaventure, where our friend Woj is the GM. Mark resigned after 19 seasons. Some question there if it was sort of a force out, but they announced it as a resignation. And I threw out a bunch of names for that job, including Joe Gallo, Pat Sellers at Central Connecticut, Matt Langle at Colgate, and some other names.
All right. Carousel will not be dull. Can I sneak a take on Duke, who it was a fairly close game. No Caleb Wilson. North Carolina deserves credit for hanging in, but man, did they smoke the Tar Heels in the second half at Cameron. 16 straight points at one point, 22-2 run overall to break it open. What do you make of Duke getting revenge tonight as they head to the ACC tournament? And Duke's obviously going to be a 1 seed in the NCAA tournament, Adam.
Yeah, I mean, I think the immediate issue is there were some injuries to Caleb Foster and Patrick Gungba in that game. So obviously, Duke's going to have bigger, more important games coming up here in the ACC and the NCAA tournaments. They want all those guys healthy, so they need a few days. Caleb Foster is playing a very important role, and they had to play Caden Boozer at the point a little more than normal today. But yeah, Duke is just a wagon. Cam Boozer is is going to be the Wooden Award winner. Dame Sarr's been playing great defense on the opposing point guard. And you really got to give John Shire credit for, the guy took over for a legend and Mike Krzyzewski, and he's got them right back at that level. And, They lost Cooper Flagg to the NBA draft, and Cam Boozer's had almost a more productive season than Cooper Flagg. So, Duke, Michigan, Arizona, Florida, clearly the top 4 teams.
Yeah, we shall see when they begin the tournament what it means, but those 4 teams all look like candidates to be in Indianapolis. Long way to go before we get there. Stay tuned on that. Jason, anything else for Adam, or are we good here on a Saturday night?
You got a busy week ahead with all these conference tournaments. You got 12 o'clock games and all that stuff at the Gardens.
No confirmation that Adam has a cot set up somewhere in the media area in the early part of the Big East for the first couple of days to keep track of all of it. That is not confirmed at NJ.com.
I'll tell you what, it's a fun time of year in New York because it used to be back in the day, we'd have the Allman Brothers band up at the Beacon, and you could go see the Allman Brothers a couple nights and then go to the Big East the rest of the time. Now we got Tedeschi Trucks band at the Beacon. I'm going Tuesday.
All right.
And I might try to sneak in a Billy Joel Billy Joel tribute show.
By the way, Jason and I will be in Vegas for the Mountain West Conference tournament and the championship game next Saturday night. We're on the call. You snuck away to Vegas and saw the Eagles at the Sphere. And on a scale of 1 to 10, you're giving that a 14. What are you giving that, having seen them in person at the Sphere?
I'm giving it an 11. I mean, the Eagles are great. Every show's the same. I highly recommend it. Maybe if you're lucky, I'll take you to a show.
I'll listen to you.
Is that venue? Is that venue? Everybody says what it is. The Sphere.
Incredible. Yeah, the sound is awesome. You know what it is? The seats are a little steep, and for the Eagles crowd, I mean, I was one of the younger people there. There's a lot of people in their 60s and 70s, and the seats are so steep that some of them are a little afraid. And if you have a couple adult beverages, you could take a header down.
Oh, my God. We don't need that. Listen, great stuff. Read him, NJ.com, the Zags blog as well. I love Adam Zagoria's insight. Follow him on the social media, Zagoria, Adam Zagoria, all one thing. You're the best, hanging with us on a Saturday night on college basketball coast to coast. Happy Big East tournament coming up, brother. We look forward to reading you and hearing more from you, Adam. Thanks.
Appreciate you. Take care, fellas.
Love that man's insight, even on concerts. Did you hear him kind of subtly put in that he might take me to a show? He presumes that I care to go see the Eagles or Billy Joel. I'm like more of a U2 guy if I had a chance to go to a concert.
You never know what kind of trouble we might get into next Saturday night. You never know.
You still feel like that I owe you a Barry Manilow concert in Vegas. Unfortunately, Barry's
on
in his
recovery,
80s.
Man.
He's recovering from cancer. I don't think Manilow's happening next weekend. So stay tuned on all of this. Back to the hoops and what he and I and you were talking about a little earlier. Let's just bring this back up for the audience. We're not going to belabor it, but one more time. The latest is, again, what Adam revealed. The Big East has already fined Danny Hurley $25,000, but they're not talking about suspending him for the Big East tournament for the opening game. So I already know you don't believe that's enough. You believe he should sit to send a message, especially to the other coaches in the Big East and elsewhere.
He has history. He's like Dennis Rodman in the NBA. It's not like this is his first rodeo with the officiating and getting ejected. He seems to get ejected every single year at some point for something. And his attitude towards officiating and his belligerence towards the officials that everybody's out to screw him and all that thought process. At some point, the conference has to say, you know what, Danny, you're our best program. Can you set a little bit of an example? I'm not saying you got to be a choir boy, but when you do stuff and you clearly bump the official, it's not like that was in dispute. You got to sit them down.
Understood. Still to come, Matt Zimick.
What in your view, if this was an NCAA tournament game, and I know he probably wouldn't have got ejected if they were winning, but shouldn't he be sat down for at least the quarterfinals?
That would be an NCAA decision versus a Big East decision, obviously under your hypothetical. But yeah, we've seen that where they have disciplined coaches even in victory. And discipline them even the following.
If a player bumped an official, would he not be suspended?
The whole thing is that this notion that he didn't bump him, he bumped John Gaffney. He absolutely looked like he made at least contact with his shoulder, etc. You've got to send the message. I mean, we saw how he was acting in the tunnel when Florida eliminated them a year ago in the second round. where he's screaming at the Baylor players and all the officials standing around. We got effed by the referees. You're going to get effed, Baylor. Don't get effed like us, as he was saying. And so sometimes if you're in charge, Big East or NCAA, you got to take action, whether he's won national titles or not. You're not above all of this. They lost the game. It's a bad loss, and he didn't handle it well once again. And did it cost UConn the number 1 seed? We rock along.
And I don't think it was a foul either against – I don't think it was a foul by the Marquette defender either. I think he jumped straight up.
2-point game there late with Demery trying to score. And by the way, a week ago at this time, they were losing by 8, but came back to beat Seton Hall in the final 5-6 minutes of the game. They have shown some vulnerability here late in the year. Lost at home to Creighton, who's not an NCAA tournament team and doesn't even have a winning record. They have shown, when you talk about the difference between that team and what Florida has done for the last 6 weeks, there is no comparison. As Florida sweeps Kentucky, that was Florida's 12th quad 1 win today. They have also beaten 10 teams in the top 30 of the net ranking now by beating Kentucky today. UConn's not anywhere close to that on the resume. And Florida hasn't lost to a team 90 and below like what Marquette is. So it looks like Florida will get that number 1 seed, and will they be here in Tampa in a couple of weeks in the first and second round of the tournament? Whether they're a 1 or a 2 seed, you can book that. They're going to be here for the regional proximity.
Probably be in the same region as Florida, most likely, unless Michigan State maybe wins the Big Ten next weekend. But don't be surprised. I could see Connecticut getting picked off in the second round by a good 7 seed, because there'll be some 7 seeds that we say, man, how are they a 7? A team out of the Big 12, maybe a good team out of the ACC, something like that. You will see a good 7 depending on their matchup. Keep an eye on them getting picked off in round 2, because Connecticut's flawed. They're nowhere near what they were a couple years ago, I don't think.
Couple of results from tonight. Alabama has blistered Auburn and completed the sweep of Auburn at home. I didn't get the final. They were up by 20 most of the second half. No contest. And fittingly about to knock Auburn once and for all off the bubble and out of the NCAA tournament with that sweep.
We stop to talk about Auburn being in the tournament?
Yeah, I think that pretty well ceases tonight as Alabama smacked them this evening. I'm looking for the final, but we'll find it later.
Can I repeat the line that we heard last week?
That's from Chris Stewart
tonight.
Go ahead, from Chris Stewart, who was live with us on the show last week.
Tennessee lost, Auburn lost, and Iran lost on this Saturday as well.
It's all good. The game finished 96-84. It was not that close.
No.
Auburn is now 16-15. Mike DeCourcy was on from the Sporting News on a Friday special edition of College Basketball Coast to Coast on the pod and on YouTube and streaming on the TuneIn channel. And DeCourcy said to us, this is interesting, since the field expanded to 64, now 68 teams, only 2 teams, 2 have had records of 2 games above 500 and gotten an at-large bid. 2 ever. Now, at best for Auburn, there'll be 1 ahead of 500. If they win a game, it puts them 2 above 500. But if they don't win the SEC tournament, they're back down to 1 above 500. So you'd be breaking precedent. And they have 15 losses, Auburn. Right. They're not in.
No.
They're not in without the automatic bid.
I agree.
On that. So there we go. We give you a little more on what has been happening tonight. By the way, Tennessee State has punched the second ticket for the big dance as they have won the Ohio Valley Conference tournament tonight over Morehead State. Long Island University Brooklyn, LIU Brooklyn, won the Northeast Conference tournament earlier today. That is former NBA star Rod Strickland, former assistant for John Calipari. Strickland turned LIU Brooklyn from a 1-win season in the Northeast Conference last year to a 15-win season in conference play this year, and they won the automatic bid today. Tennessee State, by the way, with Nolan Smith, a former Duke player and assistant, has won the OVC title. They're going to be in the big dance. So that's the first 2 tickets punched. I believe 4 more get punched tomorrow with automatic bids.
Yep.
Stay tuned on that.
Rod Strickland could maybe be a name, maybe in the Providence search with the East Coast with his
Maybe.
familiarity with the East Coast and the Knicks and all that stuff. So
Nolan Smith will be a name as well now that they've made the NCAA tournament. It could get in the mix. He's got ACC pedigree, etc. We await Matt Zimick to join us to talk some Western basketball. He is monitoring the finishing touches on UCLA pummeling USC tonight. In Big Ten play, UCLA firmly in. The bottom has fallen out on USC. Obviously tonight, I'm looking to see if that game has gone final at the Galen Center. 84-63 in the final 3.5 minutes. UCLA leads it. So there is the update on that game. So Matt will join us in a few moments. We're glad you're with us on college basketball coast to coast. You know what? Let's tell you about our friends at Kalshi. Hang on. Let's tell you about our friends at Kalshi and the predictive markets, because the predictive markets are out there everywhere on who's going to make the big dance, the different matchups, who's going to be in the Final Four, who's going to win the national title. For everything in the predictive markets, go to Kalshi, the app, kalshi.com. Again, anything with college basketball, but entertainment, the Oscars coming up, politics, all of it, the predictive markets with Kalshi. We encourage you to go there and to participate. You can also, if you believe that some of those predictives are wrong, you can wager against them. Use our promo code TJ Hoops. You get $10 off right now at Kalshi. Go check out the predictive markets at Kalshi. TJ Hoops is the promo code. If you're only hearing us, we're showing it to you on the screen. You can trade on anything and everything on Kalshi right now. It's legal in all 50 states. They're a proud sponsor of what we're doing. Promo code TJ Hoops gets you $10 off with Kalshi on the predictive markets. What else you got for me here this evening, Jason Powers, as we go along?
I know we'll get into this with Matt Zimick, but boy, has their season not turned around after that miracle comeback against Illinois? Give them credit. They have responded after all the stuff they had going on midseason, and they had the dramatic comeback against Illinois that kind of has propelled them, and now they're going to be one of those teams in an 8, 9, 10 range from a seeding perspective that could be dangerous. We know Cronin can coach in this tournament, so keep an eye on the UCLA.
And a big key to this is there was so much controversy about 3 weeks ago, 2.5, 3 weeks ago. He kicked a player off his sideline and said, go to the locker room. One of his starters. Go to the locker room. He got a flagrant foul, and he said, get out of here. And people wondered, is he going to lose his guys? Is he going to figuratively lose his locker room? That has not happened. The exact opposite. It tells you they are a tight team. They still believe in him. They have responded. Winning that Illinois game in comeback fashion, I mean, they were down 22, 24 points in the first half and could have folded. And maybe we're talking about Mick Cronin with a for sale sign in his palatial Southern California residence. Instead, they're winning games, and I don't think he's going anywhere at this point. They're in the NCAA tournament, UCLA.
Yeah, no doubt.
More on that with Matt coming up. What else tonight do you want to touch on before he joins us in a few minutes on college basketball coast to coast?
Let's throw out the Miami of Ohio dramatic game last night. We saw what a finish that was in overtime against Ohio. They finished the regular season undefeated. I know you talked to Mike DeCourcy, who thought if they run the regular season table, they're in no matter what happens in the tournament.
Yes, he did.
Thoughts, and again, not the sexiest schedule in the world, but give them credit. They found a way last night.
This was probably, it might have been the best game of the regular season now, replacing that Arkansas-Alabama double OT game that we talked about a couple of weeks ago that finished, like 117, 115?
Yeah.
Double OT, and Acuff had the 49 points in the loss for Arkansas. This game might have been better, Jason Powers, at Ohio. Miami of Ohio going for 31-0, epic, to become only the fourth team in the last 12 years to finish the regular season undefeated. And Ohio played their brains out. The kid, Jay Paveleski is his name. Paveleski was lighting them up. Finished with 34 points. He had a chance to beat them, Jason, at the end of regulation and missed the shot, or else the game is over. In the overtime, Miami of Ohio got a couple of buckets, but they got a couple of foul calls that helped them and got the free throws. Paveleski had a chance again to win the game with a three at the buzzer, and you had a rocking atmosphere in Ohio's facility, the Convocation Center. They had a good 8,000 to 9,000 people jammed in there. Can you imagine?
Rivalry game.
Rivalry. They hate each other. They play each other twice every year in the MAC. Can you imagine if that shot went in and what that court rush would have been like to stop Miami's unbeaten season? And yet it falls off the rim, no good, and Miami survives. They're going to talk about that game 10 years from now, 25 years from now to finish off 31-0 for Miami of Ohio, Jason.
Yeah, because in the say what you want about forget the NCAA tournament. There are only a handful of teams in the history of college basketball
that's right
that have played a perfect season in the regular season, and especially from a conference like the MAC, not one of the bigger conferences. This is a dream run that these guys will never buy a meal again in university.
It's the greatest season in the history of the MAC regular season, the history of that league that's 50 years old. They've never had a team that even got to like 22-0, much less 31-0. Even the Wally Zerbiak team, and you see him on CBS all the time and CBS Sports Network, Wally World as he was known. Zerbiak had the 40-point game for Miami of Ohio in the late 90s to win an NCAA tournament game. Even that team didn't do something like this, 31-0 at the end of the regular season. Zerbiak may be in a Miami of Ohio jersey when he's on CBS tonight and this weekend after what they did with that tremendous win over Ohio. Now they advance to Cleveland and the MAC tournament. By the way, our guy Chris Daubertine of bloggingthebracket.com, we love his insight. I checked with Chris on several subjects tonight, and he said to me he has Miami of Ohio now in on the basis of that regular season. I messaged him and said, even if they lose the opening game, he said, yes, they're in Dayton probably if they lose the opening game. But he said they're in. You can't deny the 31-0. He doesn't believe the human beings on that selection committee are going to deny the 31-0. Your reaction to that?
Oh, no doubt. And I've been saying this for 2 or 3 weeks on this show that if they got through the regular season, it doesn't matter what they did in the conference tournament, they were getting in. The the outrage, the human outrage would be enormous if they left them out and put a 19-12 New Mexico or a pick your bubble team Auburn 17-15 kind of team in. There would be an absolute outrage. And now all those teams on the bubble are praying they win the tournament and don't lose in a quarterfinal or semifinal, which then would be the first time since 1999 that the MAC had 2 teams in the tournament.
You make a great point on bid stealer. Can Akron be a bid stealer? Or somebody else?
Good.
Kent
State's pretty good.
So stay tuned. Just while we're here, before we get to Matt Zimick in a few moments, who will join us, I talked to Chris again and was in communication with him. He will put out a new bracket release on Monday morning coming off the weekend, but he previewed it for me. He said right now we wondered about Florida replacing UConn on the one line. He has that. That's a common take. Yep. Florida's had a better overall January and February, and that matters than UConn in a tougher conference. The SEC is the number 1 metric conference for the net. The Big East right now is number 4. So the fact that Florida won the number 1 conference in convincing fashion, the way that they have, and only lost a couple of games in doing it, should matter, should mean something. So he's got Duke, Arizona, Michigan, and Florida as his ones. I said, what about your 2 seeds? He said he has UConn 5, Michigan State 6, Houston 7, and Illinois 8 at the moment. Bear in mind that Houston won earlier today with Oklahoma State. They're going to be a big threat at the Big 12 tournament in Kansas City. Yep. Michigan State plays at Michigan on Sunday. Illinois with one final Big Ten game also on Sunday. So there's his 2 line. Any reaction on the 1 line and the 2 line from Chris?
Two
Jason
things.
Powers.
One, you're going to hear UConn make the argument, well, we beat Florida head-to-head back in December, so that should mean something for our bid for a 1 seed. You can argue that, but again, it's clear Florida has been the most impressive team the last 2 months. Only loss, I believe, was at home to Auburn the last 2 months, basically the last 14
2 months, yes.
Yeah. 2 line-wise, I think there's an opportunity for Michigan State. If they were to win the Big Ten tournament, I think they could move up to the number 1-2 seed, depending on what happens potentially with UConn. So I think there's some opportunity for movement for them and for Illinois. I think I don't love, and I know Houston's kind of been up and down the last 3 weeks or so. I think Illinois, Michigan State have some opportunity to move up higher on that 2 line, depending on what they do the next 7-8 days.
Credit, full credit right now to the Big Ten and how tough it is. Look out for Wisconsin, which beat Purdue today. I have said for 2 weeks, I didn't go to Wisconsin. I have no allegiance to Wisconsin. I don't live there. They were very tasty, probably at like 10-1 or 12-1 to win the Big Ten tournament. They're not 10-1 or 12-1 anymore to win the Big Ten tournament with the way they've been winning games the last week
Purdue today
or two. They won at Purdue today. At one point last week, they were still 125-1 to make the Final Four. 125-1. That's probably down now to like 50-1 with the way Wisconsin's been playing. But look out for whiskey in the Big Ten, and we're not Big Ten people. We don't live in Big Ten country. I said to Chris from bloggingthebracket.com, Chris Daubertine, who are your last 4 in? He said Santa Clara, which is yet to play in the West Coast Conference Tournament, and maybe playing St. Mary's one more time coming up on Monday night. He said Santa Clara in, VCU off the Friday night win over Dayton is in, SMU lost today to Florida State. He still has them in as one of the last teams in, and he has New Mexico, who lost today to Utah State. He has them in. Part of the rationale is everybody else is losing also. So SMU and New Mexico were in his bracket midweek, and he said they didn't get passed by anybody below them. What's your reaction to those 4? Anybody not belong in your mind, Jason, out of Santa Clara, VCU, SMU, New Mexico? What do you think?
SMU has been tail spinning. They've been going the wrong direction for a couple of weeks now. But Chris makes a great point. My Indiana Hoosiers had a great chance tonight. If you beat Ohio State, they're probably supplanting either New Mexico or SMU. If they would have won, they didn't. Auburn loses. Va Tech loses. San Diego State's done nothing to impress. New Mexico better not lose in the quarterfinals in Las Vegas next week. They better at least get to the semifinals, or they're going to be sweating major bullets in Albuquerque next Sunday night.
Chris's first 4 out are San Diego State. They beat UNLV barely in a high-scoring game Friday night, and they have been Jekyll and Hyde, especially away from home.
Yep.
Auburn got trounced tonight. Again, Auburn is now 16-15. They are not getting in at large, period. Indiana beaten again tonight. They have lost time and again down the stretch of the season to Illinois, to Michigan State. Now they lose here at Ohio State. They're not, your Hoosiers are not getting in, Jason, if they don't win the Big Ten tournament. They're gonna have to pull like 3 huge wins in the Big Ten tournament. I just don't see it for Indiana.
But the matchup to keep an eye on that we will probably be in attendance for could be next Friday night, Las Vegas. You could have New Mexico and San Diego State in a semifinal. That could be an elimination game right there, because if they both hold serve, they're the 2 and the 3 seed in the conference. You could see that Friday night, Thomas and Mack Center, a classic wrestling term, loser leave town match.
Yeah,
there in Thomas and Mack Friday night.
Stay tuned on that. Gave you some good stuff on what Chris is thinking. Why don't we do this? We get to say hello, as he's been covering and watching USC and UCLA, more so UCLA, put it on USC and solidify themselves even more at large for the NCAA tournament. Matt Zimick is back aboard. Great to get your insight and your takes on a Saturday night in March on college basketball coast to coast. The Western Bureau Chief back in the house with us. Jason Powers. Hello, Matt Zimick. Good evening, my friend. Happy March.
This is March, and boy, while UCLA punches its ticket, what an absolute disaster for Eric Musselman at USC. Not just the Chad Baker Mazzara soap opera, but you know, this was a tournament team in mid-February and completely lost the plot. You know, the Oregon collapse really set it in motion, and then the team just absolutely cratered. So Eric Musselman, you know, he came to USC from Arkansas with multiple Elite Eights, and it was a great hire on paper by athletic director Jen Cohen. been a disaster. So USC, Lincoln Riley, a disaster. Eric Musselman, a disaster. Not a very happy time. USC is a baseball school right now, I think.
Oh,
Matt,
ugly.
give the audience a little perspective. You're there every day. You know the ins and outs. Give us the story behind Chad Baker-Mazara. What really happened, or what's the scuttlebutt of what you're hearing of what really happened?
Well, you're aware of his drama at Auburn,
Yes.
and his, he's an odd duck, right? And so, his attitude and his disposition, just like he went on his own direction, and
We know this.
like that.
We know this. There was an incident earlier in the year where Musselman had him in his office, and the media reported this, and nobody denied it, where he and Mazara got into it, and Mazara, pick it up, Matt, got suspended for a game after that, where Musselman was trying to get through to him on, you got to do the right things the right way, and I'm the head coach, and you're not going to come across the desk at me about any of this. So he got suspended for a game. It seemed to be better. They won a couple of games, but it obviously went sideways again late in the year. Pick it up on all of that, Matt.
I mean, basically, it was a tenuous relationship, and when things were going well, they could manage. But when things weren't going well, Chad Baker-Mazara is a guy who's been known to go off the rails in terms of his overall temperament, but also, remember, against Yale, when Auburn lost to Yale in the NCAA tournament, the early hard foul, like
Objection.
this has been a constant. This is nothing new. This has been around for quite some time with Chad Baker-Mazara.
But he was their leading scorer, so it's a double whammy because he's their leading scorer.
Yep, and of course, this is a team that didn't have Rodney Rice for most of the season. He got injured early. And Elijah Arenas, they didn't have him for the first 2.5 months. He comes in mid-January, but Musselman on paper had a really good team, and either injuries or Baker-Mazara's volatility, it just couldn't have their preferred starting five for the whole season. But nevertheless, this team was in position to make the tournament 3 weeks ago, and then as soon as a little adversity struck, the bottom fell out.
Back to USC to the positive. How impressive, because you're covering this all the time with the UCLA Bruins Wire, the USA Today website. How impressive the fight of this team, the togetherness of this team, when a lot of people thought it had unraveled on Mick Cronin, and they have finished the season strong, the opposite of Southern Cal. Tell me more.
From 33-10 down as TJ and I are watching the game in Illinois to where they are today.
Amen.
Yep. If they don't come back against Illinois, they might not be in the NCAA tournament. And of course, we all remember Mick Cronin, ejecting Stephen Jamerson, his player, and then the bizarre post-game press conference in that same Michigan State game. It was easy to think the players were going to check out. They could quit. They could give up. So just a 180-degree change from then. Obviously, the players care. Obviously, the players didn't quit, and now UCLA is going to be in the NCAA tournament.
Do you sense, because you monitor the Mick Cronin stuff, the press conferences midweek, the pre USC press conferences, etc., do you get the sense that everything is smoothed over here? He wants to be around. They still want him. What's the vibe? Because we don't keep up with it as much as you keep up with it. To the outside, it would appear he's settled in. So at this point, it is all nicey nice once again with the end of the season, the last couple of weeks.
I think if UCLA had been right on the cut line, it was bubble drama all the way to Selection Sunday. There would still be serious questions about whether he'd stay. I think now that UCLA is firmly in the tournament, before even the Big Ten tournament, it's a settled question, and there's not going to be that lingering drama. I think that takes the temperature way down. So I think this situation's definitely changed, and like the Mick Cronin going to Syracuse talk, which came from me,
right?
Not anybody else, is not going to be a talking point. He's going to be coaching.
His name's going to come up now. He may have to say no.
Oh yeah.
They're going to call Mick Cronin now.
And I mean, big picture, I think it's still good for UCLA and UCLA fans if he leaves for a job, whether it's Syracuse or TJ's Memphis Tigers or Providence or
let me give you a guarantee. He is not leaving a Big Ten job where he's making millions and as much as UCLA's in a mess to come to the Memphis mess, not in a power conference, and make less money there. He's not going to willingly do that. Syracuse would have been intriguing. Everybody keeps saying go back to Cincinnati if they do something with Wes Miller, but Cincinnati's probably won enough that they might keep Wes Miller. Don't know. I don't know that Cronin wants to leave.
Though.
I don't know that he wants to leave.
TCU, Cincinnati lost to TCU and is not going to make the tournament. I think Wes Miller has to be done.
All right. So if he is done, does Cronin want to go back there? Is that better? Is that better than the UCLA job? In his mind, it might be.
80-degree weather every day of the year, brother.
In Southern California, I would agree.
Yeah. I mean, I think UCLA fans would like to see Cronin pursue other opportunities, as the saying goes.
But at this point, they could be dangerous to win a significant game, a game in Chicago, get in the NCAA tournament and win a game.
Yeah.
And now you've really solidified things that you were back as a tournament team. I know the aspirations are to be a Final Four team, a national championship contender, but he would have really solidified things in the next couple of weeks if those couple of things happen. Stay tuned. Who knows? Maybe they get bounced right away in the Big Ten tournament and all of this cranks back up again of easy leaving, right?
Yeah. If UCLA is one and done in both the Big Ten and NCAA tournaments, that would steer the conversation back to, hey, Mick, look for another job. But if UCLA at least does something in these next few tournaments, he's probably going to stay, but not a guarantee.
We have the Western Bureau chief with us, Jason Powers, Matt Zimick hanging out. Can you help us, please? We're headed to Las Vegas for the Mountain West Conference Tournament title. Are we going to put a blindfold on, Powers and me, and play pin the tail on the donkey on who wins this tournament? There are legitimately 5 or 6 teams you could make the case for, especially with UNLV sweeping Utah State, San Diego State taking losses, New Mexico taking losses. It is a crazy conference. How wild is it going to be in Vegas when we get there next Thursday, Friday, Saturday for this tournament? Championship game Saturday night on the TuneIn College Basketball Coast to Coast channel. How wild, Matt?
Yeah, it's going to be a Donnybrook. Like, Utah State is not inspiring confidence that it's going to be the kind of number 1 seed at a conference tournament that it's just going to take charge. Like, I would be inclined to think Utah State is not going to win this tournament. And so whoever wins is going to be the second team out of the Mountain West. Like, so let's play around with scenarios. Let's say like a Boise State, Grand Canyon wins the Mountain West tournament, and it's not New Mexico in the final opposite that team. I think it's going to be Utah State and the auto bid winner, because New Mexico losing to Colorado State, losing today to Utah State, New Mexico is on the wrong side of the cut line. That's clear. New Mexico is not done, but New Mexico is on the wrong side of the cut line. So New Mexico is the team that's really feeling the squeeze. You know, San Diego State's played its way out. That's pretty clear. It's New Mexico right on the cut line. So the Lobos, if the Lobos get into a situation where they're in the Mountain West final and they're not playing Utah State, they probably need to win, because Utah State's going to get an at-large. But I don't think there's room for 3 teams out of the Mountain West. New Mexico very likely needs to at least make the final.
I hear you.
Final probably needs to
Can
win.
I tell you, Jason, weigh in. I don't know that Utah State's a guarantee if they get beat right away. We didn't phrase it that way with what you just said. But if they get beat right away and don't even make the championship game, I don't know that Utah State is in at large. Jason, you got a thought on that also?
Okay, go ahead, Jason.
Yeah, I mean, again, they lost to USF, which is a good win for them. But again, I've not heard any chatter of if Utah State doesn't win the tournament, they're out. So I would think they're still but Matt, to your point, every bracket, different bracket guys we've seen have New Mexico, San Diego State both right there on the line. So that if they were to meet in the semifinals, potentially that could be an elimination game, because most people have New Mexico right in, and San Diego State is the first or second team out.
So here's the thing. If that's a semifinal, so the winner goes to the final and would probably need to win the final to get a bid. So that would be,
Okay.
you're correct. It's more of a play out game than a play in game.
Okay.
It's the losers. The loser's definitely done, and the winner then needs to get the automatic bid. That would be the way to read that particular situation. But Utah State's in because look at the bubble: SMU, Virginia Tech, Cal, Indiana, Auburn. You're seeing more bubble losers than winners. Now you're seeing a few winners, but most of the teams on the bubble are losing rather than winning. So Utah State is a notch above all those teams. It's just going to be really hard. Maybe Utah State's sweating if it loses its quarterfinal, but is a 1 seed. Like Utah State's going to play like Fresno State or a tomato can. So I guess we can say just win your quarterfinal against the tomato can, and Utah State's good to go. But barring that, Utah State's in.
On their resume, they're 28 in the net going into today. This is before the New Mexico game. They have 3 quad 1 wins, but they had recent losses to Nevada and to UNLV. UNLV swept them. So you got 3 games on your resume that are losses: sweep by UNLV and a loss to Nevada, teams that aren't in the NCAA tournament at all. I don't know. They probably have done enough to get in. They scheduled tough enough. Stay tuned. Stay tuned on that.
Win your quarterfinal against an 8 or a 9 seed, like that's not asking too much. And if that happens, Utah State's good to go.
Let's go to the state of Arizona, which I know you know well. Obviously, barring a miracle, Bobby Hurley's out at Arizona State. Give me a sense of, are they going to go big game hunting, or is this more of a mid-major coach? What is the type of guy that you think Arizona State may be looking for?
I don't have a really strong feel on this one. Obviously, Bobby Hurley was a national kind of name, to just brand name recognition, so to speak. So I'm not sure what Arizona State's going to do. Arizona State has not had a well-defined pattern, but it doesn't seem to go local, right? Bill Frieder, Rob Evans, Herb Sendek. The ASU has historically gone national, but
good point.
Whether this administration wants to go national, harder to say. I would think personally.
Is Bryce Drew in the mix for a job like that?
Well, he's in the greater market at Grand Canyon.
I know. Well, that's
in the greater Phoenix market, Phoenix, Tempe.
That's an interesting thought. But you have some really good mid-major coaches in the West. Here's what I don't get. Russell Turner at UC Irvine. He's been such a good coach in the Big West Conference for such a long time. Does he just want to stay there? Maybe, but to me, that's kind of a guy you need to reach out to, kick the tires, see if he wants to finally, climb up to the big leagues for a chance at something bigger.
And remember, they're in a Big 12 conference that has money. They have NIL at Arizona State. Football programs bought them some revenue, brought in some attention. Arizona State will have some coaches. It'll be interesting to see who might want that job in the carousel. Before you go, because you do a great job with insight on all of this, do you want to weigh in on anything like Florida rolling along? Jason and I are in Florida, long way from where you are in the Denver area. Duke smacked their rival North Carolina tonight. Any thought at the top of the bracket about the tough teams and how good they've looked? Anything else on that, Matt?
Yeah, well, I got to take the L here. I was here in January saying no SEC team is going to get higher than a 3 seed. And, of course, Florida then proceeds to win 10 billion games in a row. So Florida definitely in play for a number 1 seed. It's been remarkable what Todd Golden has done with the Gators. I think Iowa State is still a team to watch for a 1 seed now that UConn has very clearly dropped to the 2 line. The Big 12 tournament has a decent chance of producing a number 1 seed. I wouldn't say Florida is a lock. I think Florida needs to go out and win the SEC tournament. That's my observation there. But anyway, Florida's just been above and beyond. And it's just been an absolute wrecking ball.
Let me tell you this, not only around the Gator media, but around Gator fans and whomever, they are walking around, and I understand this, saying Everybody thought we weren't going to win the second one back in 2007, and we turned it on and won the second one. And you have pieces, significant pieces that are back from the title team last year. Thomas Houck has really come on. Jason preached this a little bit to the audience, not just to Matt. Houck has come on as a scorer. Chinyelu down low is an excellent defender and rebounder. If they get decent guard play, you can basically put them in Indianapolis in the Final Four. Jason, speak to Florida, the pedigree, and we can tell everybody that's watching us in the rest of the country, the Gator faithful, the Gator media believes they are going to have a chance to repeat, a legitimate chance to repeat. Right, Jason?
There's nobody in America that has the front line that Florida has and the depth of quality in the front line. And you make the great point, TJ. If Lee and Fland and Klabchar just play good, don't have to play great, and Golden will figure out a way for them to play good, they're going to need a heroic effort by somebody else to beat that, because the inside presence that they have, Houck is a kind of an inside-outside guy. He can shoot the three. He can facilitate offense. He can post up. They have just got all the pieces that you need to have to be a championship Final Four team.
Stay tuned. Matt, anything else? Duke? Anybody else at the top? Anything else? Go ahead.
Well, West Coast Bureau Chief. So got to say something about the West Coast Conference. Santa Clara is the 3 seed. St. Mary's and Gonzaga, as always, death taxes, St. Mary's and Gonzaga. So Santa Clara, I think, has to win its quarterfinal to get in. The real question would be, does it need to beat St. Mary's, the 2 seed, in a possible semifinal? With all the bubble teams losing,
I agree.
I think Santa Clara might be in just with a quarterfinal victory in the WCC. That might be enough. SMU failing, Cal failing, other team, like lots of ACC bubble teams are failing. And by the way, Stanford beating NC State.
Yep.
And now that could be the 7-10 game in the second round of the ACC tournament. That's double rubble bubble trouble. That's a 2-way bubble game. Stanford is one of the rare risers on the bubble. If Stanford beats North Carolina State in the ACC tournament, that Stanford just might be able to slip into Dayton for the first 4.
NC State's lost 6 games in a row if you need them right now. You talk about plummeting. Good God. Where's the floor? And back to the West Coast Conference.
State might be going to Dayton.
Yeah. Well, back to the West Coast Conference here. Randy Bennett's team has perennially been in the NCAA tournament. Gonzaga perennially there. They have respect from that. And Santa Clara has an out-of-conference win against Xavier. They have a couple of other wins as well. So stay tuned. Stay tuned on what happens in the West Coast Conference tournament playing out over the next 2 or 3 nights here. Championship game on Tuesday night. Anything else, Jason?
Vegas, I got a question for Matt or comment. What an environment. I watched a good bit of that second half in Moraga last week. What an environment that was. Their last meeting against Gonzaga, the kid, Mikey Lewis scored, 30-something, 31, 32.
Right.
What a cool little atmosphere in that small gym in Moraga.
Yeah, I mean, both the Kennel in Spokane and in Moraga, you get these small, classic college basketball atmospheres. You could call it Palestra West. There's kind of an old school feel, and people who've lived in the West a long time, such as myself, we really enjoy these small gymnasiums and WCC basketball. Also, of course, growing up in the Pac-10, MacArthur Court, Gill Coliseum, Friel Court / Beasley Coliseum, the Heck Edmondson Pavilion. Like there are a lot of charm in these West Coast basketball arenas.
What of those 3 teams in the West Coast that we think are going to make it? Who's the most likely to win 2 games?
Gonzaga. I mean, still the gold standard, and usually, when Gonzaga loses to St. Mary's and Moraga, the Zags usually get it back in Vegas.
I'm talking about the NCAA tournament. Which one of those 3 teams could win a couple games?
Gonzaga. I would still say Gonzaga. You recall last year, St. Mary's was second best against Vanderbilt for most of that game. Vanderbilt imploded at the end. St. Mary's is not super athletic, So Gonzaga.
The one thing is St. Mary's
ability than SMC.
If I can add to what you're saying, St. Mary's is huge. They've got tremendous size on their front line, and that will be a challenge. Does Gonzaga get Braden Huff back, who's been the injured scoring forward that's been gone for 5 or 6 weeks? Is he back for the NCAA tournament? Stay tuned. What kind of impact can he make when he's been gone this long? We'll see. Gonzaga doesn't defend very well either. They could get in a track meet and get beat right away too, depending on who the matchup is.
And Gonzaga doesn't have its best backcourt. This is not one of the elite Gonzaga backcourts, especially when you compare it to Nembhard and Suggs in recent seasons. Not the same team, but still, Gonzaga is better than St. Mary's.
Anything else, my friend? You're gracious to be here. You got to go get to the recaps of the UCLA pummeling of USC and anything else that you have going on tonight. Anything else on the first Saturday of March? We're about to approach Selection Sunday. 8 days right now, almost 7 days away coming up.
Guys, can you help me out here?
Sure.
Oklahoma and Texas were in overtime when I joined the show. Do you have a result there?
You're looking for a final from that game tonight. Ask and ye shall receive. Let me find out what happened in the waning moments of overtime. The end result, I'm double checking, is an Oklahoma 88-85 win. Porter Moser going to fool around here with 2 or 3 wins at the end of the year, and Oklahoma's going to try to keep him with a new AD.
Well, he's gone, but Texas is now near the cut line. Like, Texas is failing to close the door, whereas Texas A&M with wins over Kentucky and then today over LSU. A&M's in. Texas is still sweating. Texas is going to need at least 1 win at the SEC tournament.
Can I interest you in Colorado 26, Arizona 18, 7.5 minutes to go in the first half. Long way to go. Arizona's firmly a number 1 seed, even if they lose this game, and it's a long way from them even losing the game. I mean, we saw, for example, Oklahoma State back at the beginning of the day was beating Houston for a lot of the game. Didn't end up mattering. Houston came back and won the game. And we saw a couple of other games like that earlier today where it's, hey, they were losing for a little while, but they came back to win. So just thought I would throw that in on the West. Matt, great stuff here tonight. We appreciate it.
One more nugget. Give me a quick note on UCLA women, number 2 team in America, rolling through the Big Ten. Give me a thought there. Are they 1 or 2 favorite in the country to cut down the nets on the women's side?
It should be UConn versus UCLA in the title game, and anything else is going to be a considerable surprise. UCLA is like 7 deep in terms of proven, polished, upper-class women stars. Like the UCLA is just a rock star.
Lauren Betts is tremendous.
Lauren Betts is a leader, but Kiki Rice, Gianna Neepkins, Charlize Ledger-Walker, like they're just experienced, polished players. Like there are several 50-year seniors on the team. They all came back for this season. Like it's like 6 or 7 deep of proven veterans.
You know what I'm going to say here, though.
Our team.
You know what I'm going to say here, though. UConn is the defending champs, but Dawn Staley's South Carolina team always should be considered in the mix. I just saw this,
but not as good as UConn or UCLA.
Maybe not, but I just,
and then it's everyone else.
I just saw this. They beat LSU in the women's tournament earlier today in Nashville. It's not all Kim Mulkey. That's the 19th straight time they've beaten LSU. In women's basketball. South Carolina and LSU. So it'll be fun with the women's tournament. He's got that coverage as well.
18-0 and 30-1 overall. Out in Westwood for the ladies.
Yeah, for the Lady Bruins, for Corey Close and the Lady Bruins. We get it all here from Matt Zimick. My friend, you did great. Thank you. Let's stay in touch as this week unfolds. There going to be any games or anything of interest over the next 7 or 8 days? Maybe a couple.
Yeah.
Good God. Matt Zimick, thank you. Read him on the UCLA Bruins Wire, Trojans Wire, the USC website. And we love his insight with us on college basketball coast to coast. Thank you, my friend.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
There we go. Love his insight. My goodness, so many different games. Did we leave anything else out here from tonight? You know what? We left a sponsor. We got a sponsor before we get to more. How about a new sponsor? How about Rexing as a sponsor here on college basketball, coast to coast. Rexing is the premier company in the United States for dashboard cams, the digital dashboard cameras on the front dash, or even the two-way cameras that also work as well in tandem as a back cam off the back of your vehicle. Go to Rexing USA and find out their selection right now of these different dash cams. They've got 4K dash cams, different ones that again have dual camera capability in synchronicity, if you will, with the front and the back. If you're driving along and somebody clips your car, you got video of it immediately. If you're a rideshare driver and you want protection from whoever's in your vehicle and you want to video them, use a Rexing video camera. Rexing, R-E-X-I-N-G, Rexing.com. They are a proud sponsor here of what we're doing on college basketball coast to coast, and we have a promo code. They got a winter sale going on right now, Jason Powers, where you can get these different cameras. They have body cams, by the way. They also have cameras if you're a hunter, scopes, and cameras if you're out in the woods at a tree stand, etc. Yeah. And we also have a promo code as well from Rexing. Use the promo code HOOPS, and you get 10% off. They've got a winter sale still going on the first week in March, and you've got different hundreds of dollars in discounts with their winter sale on these digital video cameras. Take another 10% off with the promo code HOOPS from us at Rexing USA. Find out more at rexingusa.com, R-E-X-I-N-G, as they tout. They have motion sensor cameras that if your car is in park, in the driveway, a parking garage, and somebody comes and dings it, somebody comes and tries to break into it, it's got motion sensors, their technology to record right away. Yeah. Rexing USA, promo code HOOPS for 10% off. If you're listening to us, you're seeing on the video screen, I'm showing you part of Rexing's technology on the dashboard cameras. Rexing USA for the dash video camera technology, and the promo code HOOPS saves you 10% on that.
Got a couple teams I want to get your thought on. A team that I mentioned last week to be dangerous, and they continue to win games, and they're now 10-8 in their conference. Florida State.
Oh,
be careful if they get
Seminoles.
A decent draw next week in the ACC. I don't know who they would match up with in the second round. I mean, obviously they got to win a first round game, but you could potentially see them against a Duke or a number 2 seed in that ACC. Keep an eye on Florida State a little
Florida
bit. Florida
State has, at this point, let me double check on the resume, the win today over SMU, and the Seminoles, I believe, have won 5 of their last 6. I'll double check on what the role. They're up now to 10-8 in the conference. Seminoles have won 6 of 7. They also in this streak won a game at Clemson, won a game at Virginia Tech, who's on the bubble. So FSU has done some damage late in the year. If you go back to them beating Stanford and Cal and Notre Dame, how about Florida State is now 9-2 in their last 11 games? You're right. Keep an eye on Luke Laux, the former NBA assistant, the former Florida State player. McCray is the outstanding left-handed scorer that they have. Seminoles coming on a little bit. Florida State in the ACC.
Right. Next team for you. Getting some chatter as a potential bubble team, depending on what happens in their tournament. Had a nice win against the Utah State team earlier in the year. Your USF Bulls are USF Bulls. If they were to get to the American final and lose, do they have an at-large bid? Case.
That is a great question. They head to Birmingham as the 1 seed, having clinched the American title on Memphis's home floor back on Thursday night. Brian Hodgson has them now in the pole position. I don't know that they have enough at large. Maybe if they're in the championship game, that is enough at large with the 2 neutral floor wins. Remember, they have a Utah State out of conference win that is important for them. But a lot of these American Conference wins that they've gotten are not going to resonate very much with the selection committee. They're 49 in the net ranking going into today. 2 quad 1 wins. Have they done enough? Your premise is, have they done enough to get in at large? I don't know.
Final, right.
I believe they've won what? They've won 12 of 13 at the end of the year here. So South Florida, USF, and Brian Hodgson's name will be on the coaching carousel as well.
Yep.
Syracuse, South Carolina, Oklahoma, if it's open.
Yep.
On and on. Pay attention. Could it be that my Memphis Tigers, are you kidding me while we're here tonight, that the Memphis Tigers, if they lose tomorrow to Tulane and East Carolina beats UAB, Memphis doesn't even go to the American Conference tournament in Birmingham. They will be out on a tiebreaker. I said to you last Saturday night before they were playing East Carolina on Sunday, may not win another game. Did I speak it into existence if they lose to Tulane tomorrow?
And
that's amazing.
And that fan base, you know it well. I don't think Penny could survive that.
I don't know that he gets fired, but does he throw his hands up and say, let somebody else lead it? I don't know. The competitor in him, I have heard he is defiant behind the scenes that he believes this is a one-off season. They have won 20 or more games all 7 years that he's been the coach before this season, 29 wins a year ago. But again, for Memphis to be the preseason conference favorite and not make the tournament, what a collapse. What a colossal.
And even if they win tomorrow, they're going to be what, the 7 or 8 seed at best?
No, they'd be 10. They'd be out of the 10 teams. They'd be the 10th seed to be playing. Wow. Memphis has not had a 20-loss season since, are you ready? Mo Iba, the year I was born, 1970. Mo Iba lost 20 games and got fired. Memphis has only had 3 losing seasons since 1970. This is a guaranteed losing season by Penny Hardaway. What a disaster. What a disaster in Memphis. Does he stick around? We'll find out. You know who wants to squeeze in with us for just a minute? I wasn't sure if he could join us, but Ari Russell is here from New York City.
Time, man. We always
my man Ari Russell from the NYC wants to hang in and give a couple of takes before we're gone on college basketball coast to coast. You have the buffet. What do you like from tonight? Whether it's Duke clobbering Carolina, Florida rolling, anything else from Saturday, how are things?
Well, I wasn't able to catch the whole show, but I got to give love to Rod Strickland and LIU making the tournament. I mean, this first year, I think 3 wins. I think the second year was like 7. So what is this? His 4th? I think it's 17 the following, and this year they're, going dancing. So Rod Strickland, one of my favorite all-time NBA players. I was still mad that the Knicks traded him to the Blazers. But good for him. And remember, he was on the bench for Calipari at Kentucky for quite some time.
Correct.
So kind of cut his teeth as an assistant for years there, and was able to go to LIU. I mean, he's New York City guy, to be able to go to LIU and resurrect that program, which hasn't had much success over the last.
They're very possibly going to be in Dayton in a first 4 game, but they're going to be in. They got the automatic bid today in the Northeast Conference. They won. I have the stat. They won 1 conference game for Strickland last year. They won 15 regular season games this year. I'd say that's an improvement, Coach Ari. We love it.
Correct. Yeah, it's big time. So, good for Rod Strickland. Always been a fan of his, and interesting to see kind of his rise. I can't imagine that he's going to be at LIU that much longer. He's definitely going to move up in the coaching ranks after being successful in taking pretty much a dormant program and making them, a contender not only in the Northeastern Conference, but now going into the big dance, which is ultimately for those jobs. I mean, that's the ticket out of those smaller conferences. Plus, I mean, he's a big time name. Everyone knows who Rod Strickland is, and obviously the guy can coach with very limited resources. Imagine if he can go to a place with some more resources. I think he's an up and coming coach here.
What about Woj at St. Bonaventure? Their coach is now out, and Woj was an NBA guy forever, and he's now the GM. He's not the athletic director. That's an interesting little scenario for the A10, maybe for Rod Strickland. We'll see, but he's going to be in the NCAA tournament.
I honestly, I mean, in fact, I wouldn't be surprised if Penny steps away. I wouldn't be surprised if
Yeah.
they bring in Rod Strickland to Memphis.
Because Strickland, I believe, was with Calipari for a year or two at
Yeah.
Memphis before he was at Kentucky. That's an interesting name.
Yeah, so I mean that's one name that you would think out there. I mean, considering he's had success at the college level, where Penny, they brought him pretty much from high school, the high school ranks.
I love this narrative. I'm just sharing this while I'm here, and I saw Dan Walken of Yahoo, who was at USA Today, trying to point out that Penny Hardaway had only been a high school coach. Bro, he won 2 state championships with Memphis East High School, and Memphis high school basketball is blood and guts type basketball, and they won 2 state titles, and Penny had 7 20-win seasons in a row. So don't revise history and act like he didn't have success before he came to Memphis and then when he was there. Now, it may have unraveled, but we love to somehow revise history completely that, well, he had only been a head coach, that won 2 state titles in the state of Tennessee, not the state of Montana or the state of Rhode Island. He won 2 of them in a pretty prominent state.
Well, no, and they pretty much brought him on because he brought James Wiseman on board.
Yeah.
Kind of coincidentally didn't play much because he was hurt for much of the year.
And he got suspended by the NCAA, right?
That's right. He was suspended, and then he had injuries, and it's kind of what his NBA career has been all about, is injuries. But, we know that Penny can recruit. Definitely, it's just a matter of putting it together. You would think he would have a little bit more success. Yeah, 7 20-win seasons is significant. I don't think he's had maybe there's one NCAA win in there.
That's right. That's a shortcoming. That's a shortcoming, but we'll see what happens with that. We'll see what happens with Strickland. Yeah.
And Memphis isn't really a mid-major program, but even though they're in a mid-major conference, at this point, they are a struggling mid-major program. They can't get into a bigger conference. They have decent NIL. We'll see who ends up. If Penny doesn't want to do it, we'll see who ends up wanting to take that job. But but it's a major place. I mean, Memphis.
I don't disagree.
It's a major program in a mid-major conference. There's several of them out there. Gonzaga is one of those as well. I mean, they're a major program, but their conference, though it's gotten a little stronger of late, that conference right there is one that.
Yeah, the American.
Yeah. Yes.
You and I have previous lives with SiriusXM Radio been at the Duke North Carolina game.
Right.
Just share with the audience what it's like to be in that hallowed cathedral for this game, and then say something about Duke rolling again tonight. They got revenge on North Carolina. Ari, speak to it.
Well, I mean, not particularly shocked. It was close, going into halftime, and then Duke got within 1 point, I think. But Duke just pulled away. Look, I think it would have been a lot closer had Caleb Williams hadn't broken his other hand this week, and he's out obviously now. That's a huge loss. I mean, Caleb Wilson's is a top 5 pick right there. So, but again, Duke is just over the last 3 or 4 weeks now. Have just completely dominated the competition. Obviously, they had that Michigan game in there, very very close game. But Duke has proven themselves to be the number 1 overall seed at this point. They've locked that in. No matter what happens in the ACC tournament, Duke is going to be the number 1 overall seed, and they've earned it. To avenging that last second loss to North Carolina a few weeks ago. I wasn't expecting them to lose in that environment. In that rivalry. That place is hell to be in for opposing teams. I mean, literally, the fans are right on top of you. Literally, I mean, there's a really small distance between the fans and you. I mean, they're on top of you, and it's hot. It's just an old school kind of dungeon, and it's dungeness. Even for the broadcasters, have to climb up to the
true. The top, the crow's nest, yes.
Yeah, the crow's nest, and it's like you have they have a ladder that they put up that they have to move during the actual play of the game. So because someone's sitting there right below it.
Crazy. So, hey, you want a stat? By the way, Jason loves the Nuggets and loves the stats. Duke now 29-2 on the year. How about what's on the screen? John Shire in his last 64 games is 60-4. 2 losses during that streak last year to Clemson in the regular season and Houston in the Final Four.
Woo.
2 losses again this season to this point. He is 60-4 the last 64 games, and more to come in the ACC tournament probably, and then the NCAA tournament.
Yeah.
Staggering.
Their matchups, they're such a tough team to match up against. I mean, their 4 guy can hit the three. He stretches the game out. Their guards, their best aspect of this team is their defense, their team defense. It's just absolutely suffocating.
Hey, real quick on this.
Foster and Mbongba being hurt, though. Keep an eye on that.
So both Caleb Foster foot injury, Gongba, I believe it's an ankle injury. John Shire basically saying on Saturday night after the North Carolina game, he doesn't believe either one of them will play in the ACC tournament in Charlotte.
There's no need to take a
and
risk.
Right. They're a 1 seed no matter what. Hey, I put this on the screen. Arizona was trailing by as many as 8 in the first half at Colorado. They have now closed it to a 2-point game at halftime. It's in Boulder. We'll see what they do. They're a presumptive number 1 seed. Are they the best matchup to beat Duke? We saw Duke beat Michigan on a neutral floor, kind of a preview of a Final Four type game. You've got Florida. You've got UConn. You've got Houston. Is Arizona maybe the best matchup to beat Duke? Real quick, Ari.
Probably because of their they're gigantic up front and extremely athletic there as well, and have a really, really good backcourt. So yeah, I think they probably are the best matchup to be able to beat Duke. I'm actually going to say Florida as well, even though Duke beat Florida earlier in the year.
But only by 2 points. They beat them by 2 points in Cameron.
Exactly. And in this case, Florida is a much better team now than they were then, because their guard play has stepped up. The guard play was kind of struggling to kind of fit in and figure it out, but they figured it out. Their guard play now. And we already knew that their front court is probably one of the best front courts in the country. So I think that Florida, another shot at Duke would probably that's a tough matchup for Duke again, even though Duke is also more improved than they were in that game. I just think that Florida's guard play has stepped up to the moment, and we're seeing them really start to catch their stride at the right time. I still think Michigan would have a shot again as well. But Arizona, just from a personnel standpoint, I think that they pose the biggest threat to Duke at this point. But it's not. There's not much of a margin between any of these teams. Duke, Arizona, Michigan, and I would put Florida. I think Florida's pretty much locking in as the fourth number 1 seed at this point, because UConn losing. I mean, you have to look at UConn's losses, especially with their 5-3 in their last 8. 2 of those losses are against teams that aren't going to make the tournament. One of them was today against Marquette, who only had 6 wins previously in conference. I think they ended up the season like 7-13 in the Big East.
Marquette 93 in the net today.
Yeah,
beating
forget
UConn.
it. That's a bad loss for them, and that especially when the margins are very narrow. For picking that 4th number 1 overall seed, the committee is going to be looking at, well, how is Florida playing compared to it? And I think that you'd have to give the advantage to Florida at this point, especially playing in the SEC, which is a heck of a lot more competitive top to bottom than the Big East is, at least this year. Big East is very thin. It's very good at the top. 2 teams, obviously, St. John's and UConn. St. John's winning back-to-back regular season titles. How about that? And then Villanova is the only other team, and there's definitely a step down between St. John's and UConn. And outside of them, the Big East is Seton Hall is okay, but they're not a tournament team at this point. Great year by Shaheen Holloway, turning it around. Last year they were absolutely terrible. This year they won 20 games, so you got to give them a lot of credit for turning them around. But that's it. They're 3. So Florida had a much tougher schedule down the stretch. And I think compared to UConn, even though UConn had a great run there, 18, 19 straight wins, and only losing to Arizona in the non-conference schedule. But Florida took a bunch of lumps before. But at this point, the way that they're playing and the schedule of whom they have to play, Florida, in my opinion, you got to put them there as the fourth number one overall seed.
We're going to get
regardless
out
what
of here.
happens.
Forgive me. We're going to get out of here in a minute or two. Say something
Sure.
about St. John's. You're in New York City.
Yeah.
St. John's came on. They beat Seton Hall. They've recovered from getting blistered by UConn about a week and a half ago.
Yeah.
The second straight Big East regular season title. They win it outright. Don't even have to share it with the UConn loss.
Yeah.
Say something about St. John's.
Mid-80s.
85 and 86 is the last back-to-back regular season titles for St. John's. Say something about them real quick before we go.
Yeah, for sure. Obviously, like I mentioned earlier, several weeks ago, during kind of earlier in the conference, when the conference schedule started heating up, saying that it took them some time to get to kind of gel together as a team. And boy, are they really gelling together. Obviously, fell pretty hard against UConn on the road there. But after that, they picked themselves off the mat. They looked pretty impressive against Seton Hall last night, especially in the last 4 or 5 minutes of that game. They did a good job of closing it out, hitting big shots. Look, the difference between this year and last year, St. John's can shoot the three this year. They couldn't do it at all last year. And probably one of the players that no one or more people need to be talking about is being really one of the best players and probably should be a first-team All-American, but probably won't be because he's frankly too old because everyone wants the freshman. And for good reason, there's a lot of good ones. But Zuby Ejiofor, man,
Yeah.
Oh my God, what a ball player this guy is.
Yeah.
He's a phenomenal player all around on both ends. I mean, if he were 18, 19, there's no question he'd be a high lottery pick at this point. If I'm an NBA GM, I'm looking at Ejiofor, I'm like, this guy is going to be a player that can play rotation for 10-year
role player in the NBA.
Yeah.
He'll play 10 years.
Exactly. And he's a tough matchup. So down the stretch, that there's no one that really can handle him, Ejiofor, and he's good on both. He's a two-way player, and he's just really impressive. And they're starting to figure out how to work together around him, which they struggled earlier in the year. But now St. John's is putting it together, and again, Rick Pitino is doing what Rick Pitino does, being probably one of the best coaches in the history of the game. I'm not shocked. I don't think anyone else should be.
I love your insight. You're going to be hanging out at the Garden in the Big East tournament as well with our buddy Adam Zagoria. We get ready for that to come around. And this time next week, we'll have a Big East champion, and we'll have virtually almost all of it settled except for like the Big Ten, the SEC, the American on Sunday, and then we get a bracket next Sunday night on Selection Sunday.
Yes or no? Did the Big East miss the mark by not suspending Hurley for today's antics?
Probably yes. Yeah, they should. That's there's a lot of people that have issues with Hurley, and yeah, I'm not one of them. But I think that you do have to pull the trigger at some point with him because he does kind of cross the line a lot, and he definitely crossed the line today. So I think suspending him for one game in the Big East tournament would have been probably justifiable. I think he got fined $25,000, which
is nothing.
Correct.
Which is.
But is it a sign too that UConn is vulnerable here? You got Hurley melting down. They lost to Marquette. They were behind a week ago. If Seton Hall was up 8 with about 6 minutes left, and let UConn wiggle off of it and come back and beat them. I wonder if there's some vulnerability even at the Garden here.
Yep.
Yeah,
for
sure.
UConn in the Big East tournament. Stay tuned before they ever get to like a championship game. Stay tuned.
Yep.
Ari Russell, great stuff tonight. Thank you for hopping in at the end of the show. We've been here a bit, so we're going to wrap it up. Promise me that we get to talk to you again later on this week around the Big East tournament and everything else with college basketball. Thank you tonight on College Basketball Coast to Coast.
Thank you, and you'll get plenty from me, and you'll get some videos and interviews. And
we love it.
Yep.
We love it. Is it a St. John's repeat as Big East tournament champs? Does somebody like Villanova or Seton Hall make a run to the title? UConn get back in the mix and flex their muscles? Stay tuned. Ari will be there for all of it at the Garden. Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good night. Jason Powers, we have covered a bunch.
Woo!
By the way, we've crossed midnight. We're 7 days from Selection Sunday in the Eastern Time Zone. Friendly reminder to everybody watching us and that's around the country, set your clock forward.
I was just getting ready to say we're
In the
losing
middle
an
of
hour
the night.
tonight.
You might as well do it before you go to bed. Set your clock forward. The clock's spring forward as of tonight. And it's already Sunday. Did we leave anything else out here tonight on college basketball coast to coast on the live show? Are we good?
I think we covered it all, my man.
My gosh, a lot that we went over. We will have more content midweek. You and I will reconvene together in Indianapolis for the Horizon League championship game here on the TuneIn College Basketball Coast to Coast channel, free to hear on the TuneIn service, Tuesday night, Indianapolis, 7 Eastern time, out of defending champion Robert Morris from the conference tournament, Wright State, the 1 seed. Who's it going to be?
Green Bay or Northern Kentucky tomorrow night.
Green Bay, Northern Kentucky play tomorrow night, trying to play their way into the semifinals. Then next Saturday night, Mountain West Championship game. Tune in, College Basketball Coast to Coast channel. You and I will be in Vegas for Utah State, San Diego State, New Mexico, Boise State, Colorado State, UNLV, Nevada, all of these different teams vying for who's going to take home the automatic bid. Is it a 2-bid league? If somebody besides Utah State wins the tournament, is it a 2-bid league? Stay tuned.
And which coach will I see in the gambling at the craps table or in the poker room?
In the casinos.
Which coach?
There are several tournaments going on
Yes.
Next weekend, so stay tuned on who is still out there from the Big West tournament, from the Mountain West tournament, from the WAC tournament. Stay tuned.
The WCC overflow, those guys probably be gone by then, but you never know.
We'll be out in Vegas later on in the week, and that championship game is Saturday night, and then we'll do a Selection Sunday show as well when we have a bracket, a field of 68. Jason, I think we're good here for a Saturday. You and I were together earlier in the evening, watching some of the Florida win, watching some of the Duke demolition of UConn or of North Carolina for the most part.
It's a birthday cake. A guy gave you some birthday cake.
Got a little birthday cake. I have another lap around the sun completed. Now that it's Sunday, we had a good time with all of that. Thank you to Adam Zagoria, our insider from NJ.com, Matt Zimick, the Western Bureau Chief with the UCLA Wire, Ari Russell with us once again from New York City.
That's why we're called Coast to Coast, boys and girls.
We are Coast to Coast. Make sure, as you have found us here on the different platforms of college basketball coast to coast, YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, that you also find the podcast feed on Apple, Spreaker, Spotify, and the TuneIn channel. College basketball coast to coast, where we'll do those live games Tuesday in Indy, Saturday in Las Vegas. Jason, have a good rest of the night and early morning in the Eastern time zone. We'll catch up later in the week, my friend.
Got it. Good luck to all of our fans' favorite NFL free agency team.
Oh, yeah. Free agency going on. We got all kinds of craziness, including the college hoops. For now, we are good on a Saturday night recap show on college basketball coast to coast.